most especially those that were dealing in groceries. So that in some kind of a way, for any person that was dealing in the retail at that particular time, they had to think otherwise and reposition their resources and ensure that there is they're allocated to more productive areas, or even in a much more appropriate and productive way. But then still, if I'm talking about retail, I can't rule out the fact of that it has evolved over time, that these days we actually see these services being put online, in some kind of a way. I mean, we're seeing all these shops, the retail shops being put out there online, and it's making transactions quite a little bit much more accessible to the consumers. Just like yesterday, we are mentioning something in line with consumer behavior, and it all comes in line with the aspect of, first of all, pricing. There's acquisition, consumption, and the deposition. So the retailers actually, are making this much more realistic to the consumers, most especially if we are to consider the acquisition function and the consumption. But the consumption is much more over. It's more personal according to your opinion. You've used the product, but what is your say towards it? So it's all dependent on that. But the bigger picture in here is for you to get to understand that the acquisition, you make it easy for the consumer to access this commodity. It could be in a shop anywhere, and that is quite very key and important. And then also another key aspect that I've come to realize when it comes to the retail sector. Now, considering it from the traditional perspective, it calls for quite a lot of financial discipline. Yes, financial discipline is quite key, because you need to understand that the margin, that actually the profit margins are actually little, because you can imagine you sit in your shop for a whole day only to reap about 20,000 you get in shillings, and that is 20,000, and you've sold quite a huge lots of items. So it shows you that you need to be very disciplined when it comes to finances, when it comes to taking stock taking. You need to have a proper records of accounts, because you never know, and at times you're actually even employing people into your retail shop, and at the end of the day, you're probably they might reward themselves with some of the product off the shelves of that. So that is costing you, by the way, in terms of stock, because when you count the stock you have vis-a-vis the amount of money you expect, there want to be quite a positive balance in that line. So it calls for some sort of adherence to the facts which are attributed to running that business, and you have a huge financial discipline. But of course, it's quite a lot, because many times, like I mentioned earlier, many people, when they're thinking about starting business, they think of retail. Few people start up other businesses, but very many people come up to engage in retail business. Of course, for various reasons, because at times you may not need really a lot of capital to start. You're talking about 1 million, you can stock a few things, and these are commodities that are demanded by consumers on a daily basis. That's what I can say. So that makes it a little bit an ideal business, most especially if you choose to open it up in a place when you understand the people that you're dealing with, their income brackets, because that, people consume eatables, simple snacks on a daily basis. You put them all there, and I think it could be quite a good marketing idea. Now, like I mentioned earlier when I was introducing this, transactions worth about 8 billion with circulating within an active population. When I talk about active population, I'm removing aside the people that are not yet probably working yet, 10 years and below. But now let's assume, because the biggest population is actually the youth, which fall into the age of between 18 up to about 35. So that makes about 35 million people, that population is transacting within the retail sector. But of course, there are quite a huge number of strategies that are being set in place to accelerate a small retail business. And in most cases, most especially if you want to come with it from a profit perspective. And by the way, before I even get there, We have seen people, for example, those that are dealing in wholesale, and they started as retailers. Now, the bigger picture in here is that how do you ensure that you can actually graduate from just running a retail shop to running a wholesale? Now, that brings me back to the point of financial discipline. You have to be really very disciplined, because we've seen some of these retail shops stay the way they are for the rest of the time. I mean, I know you can bear me witness actually. In most cases, when you're moving around the different places in the suburbs, there is that shop that you know that you've been seeing it the way it is for the last 15 years, and it's that way. And well, okay, you may not necessarily have to get into wholesale, but at least you could open up another branch of that. That is a sign of growth. You know, you can have two branches, you can have three branches, extensions, and that. But if you can transcend to the wholesale, because that is the whole mindset of entrepreneurship, that I'm not going to stay in one line of product for a very long time. I have to adjust in a way that I need to see growth. It's about growth. It's not about being stagnant with one business, regardless of whether it seems to be earning. And you know, sometimes you can be stuck in a mode where you're just on survival mode. You just, I mean, you're just on average profits. In other words, it's zero. You're just making money to keep you running the business, but you're not making the money to help you grow your business, because that is quite one of the key and the most important aspects. Business growth in terms of product portfolio, in terms of it could be in terms of size, in terms of contributing to other factors, putting other factors constant, you open up other branches. But then, still, as we proceed, the retail business has still faced quite a number of challenges. And today we shall be mainly dwelling into the aspect of the foreign investors. And you see, it's very interesting that some of these investors are putting, they are participating in every production chain, of a given commodity. For example, he's manufacturing, he's also distributing at the same time, he's also having a wholesale plant, and at the same time, he's also having a retail outlet where he can actually put his products out. And now, that is keeping the local retailers entirely out of the picture. And like yesterday, when we were mentioning something to do with interest rates, that some of these foreign investors are getting loans, can access loans at about 2%, because when you compare their central bank rates, they are below 3.5%, unlike ours, which is already in 10%. And we know that that rate increasing will definitely mean that the cost of borrowing from commercial banks is quite expensive. So when this investor comes into the country, he's definitely operating at a low. I mean, everything is just easy for him. He could access the capital. On top of the capital, he's actually having incentives on that. And you, the local person, you're borrowing at 30%, 28 minimum, probably. And now you're also into this market. So you find that this person is going to be able to participate in every chain of production, and it's cheap for him, and he's dominating the entire market. So if he's having distributors, if he's manufacturing, he's having a wholesale plant, and he's also having a retail outlet, well, it's hard for you to compete with them. So those are some of the challenges that the local retailers have actually been facing. Now, if we are to talk about retailers, now we are now transitioning a bit from those retailers operating from a local basis, for a village basis, probably in a given local council somewhere. But now we're talking about retail outlets, talking about those that are operating on the city, those that have, large, there are these large retail outlets, for example, okay, even supermarkets could be, but those ones could be a bit of with a variety of goods. But I'm talking about there are these retail outlets that are more of detailed, not detailed necessarily, but they are particular in the type of commodity that they deliver. So that competition is kind of a little bit hard to be outrun by the foreigners. Well, that is it for the morning call, and it's exactly 15 minutes past 7. A smart men's business. I'm Andrew Barije, and definitely at this particular point in time, let's take a look at what's making headlines into the praise. Well, of course, presented with the Daily Monitor and the New Vision at the same time. Starting off with the New Vision, taking a look at what's making headlines. And now seeing on the top page, they're mentioning about hair relaxers, which hair relaxers linked to brain cancer. Well, this is something we talk about consumer health, when it comes to protection. And away from just considering the prices that sometimes consumers are exploited in terms of the pricing of these commodities, but the health of consumers is also quite important. Now, there is a story here on page 3 of the New Vision, and it's explaining to you exactly how the hair relaxers can actually cause you brain cancer. And that is quite horrible. This is cancer that when you acquire, chances are high that you could lose your memory. Memory, death, of course. But now imagine you lose memory, you can't be productive at all. Now, seeing still here about Bujiri bosses who have been remanded for over 1.2 billion Ugandan shillings. And of course, seeing here the 10 Bujiri district officers appearing before the anti-corruption court in Kampala. That was on Tuesday, just 2 days back, where they were charged and remanded to Luzira prison for allegedly embezzling 1.2 billion Ugandan shillings. Now, this is in fictitious salary areas during the first phase of the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, now still taking a look at the Daily Monitor, pressure amounts on Parliament. That is overgraft. The combination of some opposition and ruling party members of Parliament and the concerned members of the public, of course, have continued to mount pressure on leaders in Parliament to account for their actions, with calls for a forensic audit of the House's books getting louder. Yeah, lots of drama that is happening in there. But when you grab yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor, you will be able to actually find out what really this drama is about. Now, of course, betting skills here. They're saying betting kills future of 1,000 Makerere students. And you see, it's quite very interesting how in Uganda here, think about betting, because this is like a business for somebody. And, for us, we view it from the perspective of that, hey, I'm getting free money from that. So do you really think the investor who put up the betting business is also just watching? Well, it's definitely targeting something. And here we are seeing 1,000 Makerere students, their future has been put in shambles, due to betting. So grab yourself a copy of the Daily Monitor and get further aspects of this story. Now, tales of women drivers chasing dreams in taxis. It's also part of the discussions here. And the registration of border beats vehicle licensing. Now, of course, during the period, the Uganda Revenue Authority data indicates that at least 161,401 motorcycles were registered. All right, now let's take a deep look into here. Of course, it's a whole tale of women drivers chasing dreams in taxis. In other words, women are pursuing jobs that we don't really expect them to, and they're participating in driving taxis. Some are truck drivers and so many more, and that is beautiful. Seeing equity in opportunities presented, it creates participation in matters, in the economic matters of the country. And of course, Parliament pressure, like we saw on top, it's still here. Pressure mounts in Parliament over the cash saga. It's quite a huge discussion which has been put here. And IGG says finance ministry officials are fueling corruption. Yes. Actually, in her very own words, Betty Kamihe said that some of the revelations indicated that there is a lot of corruption right from the source. All right. Now we come to the end of the press brief. Now let's cross to the traffic, getting to observe the situation. Now this is definitely coming straight from Kura Road Junction. And of course, just opposite there is a police station. And we are definitely observing the traffic atmosphere. Now that is the Ntinda Bukoto route that you're observing from that line. And I'm seeing quite a moderate number of vehicles that are coming that side. And they are probably proceeding to the Lugogo bypass, and some will be continuing definitely to Kira Road, heading to the city center. Now, of course, there are various aspects here for you to reach the city center, but using the Lugogo bypass might seem to be like a shortcut. But the only challenge is that if you maybe now, like you're heading to the city center, you'll find a huge collision around Ginger Road, most especially at that phase where it links up with Port Bell Road. I don't know why I find it hard to trust that side, but that is the situation. And remember, Bokoto and Ntinda side, they are both residential and commercial areas. Residential in a way that people are inhabiting those areas for residential purposes. They have their homes, they have their families there. Whereas we still have a group of people that are inhabiting those areas for commercial purposes. They are probably set up shops. Also, it's a both way there. It has that both way traffic. That's why you can see the number of vehicles that are joining the Ntinda Bokoto route is almost equivalent to the numbers of those living. Of course, those that are heading there are less compared to those that are coming out of there. So could we say that to a bigger extent, it's largely a commercial place? But of course, some of them are coming in from Nigeria side, Kisasi side, linking up, just passing through to head to other different destinations. But definitely, that is the situation. It's quite congested, actually. So if you're setting off right now and you're from Ntinda Bokoto, you're from Bokoto side, Ntinda, well, chances are high that you will be delayed a little bit. Or if you're coming in from other areas like Kira side, Kisasi side, and you're going to pass through the Ntinda Bokoto route to head to any destination of your choice, you'll find a little bit of a hard time to be in there. You'll have to be patient because now we are talking about 5 to 7 minutes of jump before you're set free to head to any other given destination. So that is something you need to take account of. And being a Thursday morning, in most cases, Thursdays normally don't command quite a lot of traffic because there is not so much tension, if you can really witness, because on what makes it more congested on the Mondays is due to the result that most of the corporations, companies, organizations, they normally have meetings on Monday morning, and they have to talk with staff and see how the week is going to run. So it explains why every person is actually struggling so hard. And these meetings start as early as 7 a.m. So, or 7:30 latest. So you find it that the employees are doing whatever it takes to be there on time. And on top of that, some have to take their children to school since we know it is already school time. So if you put all that psychology together, you will definitely get an equation of the final outcome of that equation will be congestion. That as compared to Tuesdays when it relaxes a bit, because by Tuesday you already know what you talked about on Tuesday. So that explains. Now we take a look at the Lugogo bypass adjacent that is adjacent to the Ntinda Bokoto Road, and it's not really much congested. Yeah, I'm so sure it's normally not. Now, see, taking a look at the Kira Road, it's also free. I'm also especially now for those that are leaving, that are joining Ntinda Bokoto and you're coming in from the Kira Road side. It's quite free because that now links you straight to Kampala. You branch off to Kamocha side, and as you proceed, you branch through the Mulago roundabout, then Wandegea. Before you know it, you are in the city. But that seems to be a longer route as compared to when you use the Lugogo bypass and just branch over Lugogo there, proceed a bit, and you will be already in the city center. Anyway, either way, you will still reach, but the Lugogo bypass seems to be much more of a shortcut. And still in that lane, we have the Ntinda Bokoto route. The Bokoto Street along there, Kanjocha streets. All those can be shortcuts for you to, go through inside and avoid the main road jam that might come your way. But that is the situation as we can see it around the Kira Road junction, and it's exactly 25 minutes past 7, and it's fairly congested. The most congested route is the Ntinda Bokoto Road. Well, we go for a quick break for now, but of course we are returning with Caribbean, East Africa, and international updates. Stick around.
Smart 24, driving business.